the extremes that you can just grab straight. As in, you can just unlock it directly, and I think it's presented more front and center. My dots ran out. It's presented more front and center than certain other extremes.
Welcome back to the Mentor Roulette grind, and this time we're actually just kinda picking jobs on a whim. And we start duty 1 off with O10N, Omega's Midgardsormr, as Samurai. This party was solid, so the run goes quite smoothly. Most of the mechanics in the fight are pretty intuitive, with the outlier being the body movement tells that I've talked about before. When the boss flies in a horizontal circle twice, it means circle AoE. When it goes horizontal, then vertical, it means donut AoE. If he starts vertical, he will always do vertical twice, and it means cross AoE. As far as I know, the way the fight usually starts is that he shows circle twice in a row, so double circle twice in a row. Then for the next pair, shows donut, so circle then vertical, and then randomly either does the configuration for the circle AoE or the donut. And then for the third pair, will show cross, so double vertical, and then randomly something else. If you're not sure when you get into a fight like this, my advice is always step out to an intercardinal if you want to be certain to survive. Getting hit once will not kill you most of the time, but if you go in when it is actually cross AoE, you will almost certainly die. Additionally, 2 of the 3 options will hurt you if you go in. Only one, the donut, will hurt you if you go out to an intercardinal. So if the mechanic was completely random with no tell at all, this would still be the optimal choice. The other tip for this fight is that in the later parts of it, the floor becomes slippery just before one of these body movement mechanics. So optimize your movement for this, place yourself close to the circle AoE area, preferably outside it, while also at an angle so you won't be hit by the cross AoE. Then you can easily move in if donut is shown, or stay put or jump out otherwise. For Samurai at this level, there is not that much you can do. Maintain Higanbana, try to use Make-Sure Shisui as much as you can. Due to not having Tsubamegaishi, you don't have much in the way of being able to adjust a GZD forward or backward to align Higanbana better, so just try your best. For duty 2, we went to the edge of a snowy mountain. Get that Higanbana up quickly, get the speed buff up, and then just do the 1-2-3s. You might have to rebuff speed once, but Higanbana makes no sense to reapply as the fight will almost always be over anyway. For duty 3, we went to Turtle Power, and it went about as fast as it possibly could. I guess maybe the Conjurer could have done slightly more damage or something, but I don't think it would even change the clear speed by a visible margin anyway. For duty 4, we went to Praetorium, and this run definitely went slower than usual, and there are some clear reasons as to why. First, although perhaps a smaller detail, the Dark Knight regularly sat on full MP. More importantly, the Black Mage seemed to play as if they didn't have any actions above level 30. For single target, they spammed Fire 1 until they couldn't anymore, transposed and used Blizzard until full and then transposed back. For AoE, they just spammed Fire 2 until out of MP and then Blizzard 2 and back. They did maintain their dot, which is actually the real proof in the pudding, because some of you might think, of course, the Black Mage forgot to do their job quests. Thunder 3 is from a job quest, and they had that one. Anyway, despite these oddities, we still cleared, of course. So, to finish off there, if Samurai was a Pokemon, what would its typings be? In the pursuit of not just giving every job using a metal weapon the steel typing, I could see Samurai as a fighting psychic type due to all the meditation and such. It would probably also have access to moves like Psycho Cut. Actually, I'm probably just envisioning Gallade at this point. What do you think? For duty 5 and 6, we went to over and under, then over, then under, then go as Black Mage. All we can really do here is fire, set up thunder, spam fire, and when we run out, spam blizzard. This also leads to a mildly interesting detail that how strong Black Mage is in this case partly depends on how strong the rest of the team is. Because if you can win fast enough that the Black Mage does not have to cast blizzard, then relatively speaking it is a lot stronger. Not that you have any control over that at all, of course. For duty 7, it's gobbling time! This is one of those cases where Black Mage's limited mobility really sucks. You might actually find Scathe useful here, and simultaneously Fire 2 and Blizzard 2 incredibly unhelpful despite being AoE options, as they take too long to cast. Also, a quick reminder that you do need to kill everything in this duty to succeed, unlike some of the other guild tests. For duty 8, we went to the new 7.3 dungeon, so jump to here to skip that if you like. That said, we of course went to Meso Terminal as a field trip it seems. Naturally, the most interesting part here is the second boss, so let's check that out. First, the bosses are passed out as follows: Ravenous on the other Black Mage, Bloody on the healer, Pale on the tank, and Pestilent on me. Before the fight properly begins, I have already passed the halfway point on my boss. However, surprising no one, the other Black Mage quickly follows. As the DPS bosses summon an add to slow us down, the tank passes the halfway point. An inconvenient damage roll leaves my add at 0.1% HP, requiring an additional attack, and during this bit, the other DPS overtakes me, and the healer passes the halfway point too. Moments later, the Ravenous boss goes down first, and the Black Mage helps the healer towards the finish. I clear second and go to help the healer as well, which of course means the tank finishes last. I've been told the bosses should have balanced HP such that if everyone is performing equally well, they should go down equally fast, but I do feel like DPS tend to finish first almost every time. Granted, if all 4 bosses had equal amounts of HP, then the tank probably wouldn't be this close to finished when everyone else were done. I do think this fight is very unique and entertaining though, with the biggest highlight being that if you have something, you can help each other with managing your fight, like the tank giving defensives to the other party members and things like that. For duty 9, we went to Queen Kaboom as Sage, and Fern is here. Not that much interesting happens here, but a soft reminder that you can see player deaths if any of the marshmallows manage to sleep the healer. This can be interrupted. Or if they sleep someone else and the healer does not use a Shuna on it. Aside from that, quick and easy. For duty 10, we went to Bird Up with Fern and Gazel as Astrologian. And as usual, we clear everything except one, and then clear everything again. While waiting for the invuln to go down seems to be the intended solution, it tends to not work unless everyone holds damage, so we just don't bother. For duty 11, we went to Brayflox Longstop, and we had a solid team, so we just bulldozed through the duty. A tip for the first bit of the dungeon, especially as the healer. Assuming the tank pulls the mobs that would be in the way and seems to be able to handle it, leaving them with a hot and then running up to grab the key while the pull is underway is probably the most effective way to save time as a healer at this time, since you're almost certainly the only one in the party without AoE. Another tip is that the Raincatcher plant mob suddenly silences nearby players during the fight, so try to stay away so it doesn't hit you. Or use an echo drop if you do get hit. This can be especially awkward for Dark Knights since their AoE is magic. The rest of the dungeon doesn't have that much up its sleeve, so just make sure to pull as much as you can handle. Remember, taking the packs a bit slower and safer is usually faster than wiping, if you're afraid of that. For duty 12, we went to Copperbell Mines. This run was a full Sprout squad and took a bit longer, primarily because no packs were skipped in the first bit. In fact, they were dealt with one at a time. As we did have an actual Lancer in the party, pulling big wouldn't be as impactful as if we had 2 jobs with AoE on the DPS, although that would essentially have to be ranged physicals anyway. Overall, the duty still went pretty fast despite clearing almost everything 1 pack at a time. I also got the impression that everyone were using their cooldowns plenty, which is a good sign. For duty 13, we went to Underkeep as per request, Bard. And Ilana's here. Right out the gate, I demonstrate an awkward bit of Bard planning. I have previously landed in Underkeep and led with Wanderer's Minuet, only to find that it completely ruined the lineup of songs and buffs, and I lamented that I should have started with Army's Paeon, so this time I do exactly that, and find that it caused me to sit awkwardly and needing to hold my buffs until way too late, which then meant that I couldn't open with my 2-minute burst on the boss. This is extra funny because I've seen everything on other jobs as well, from being so fast that the 2-minute burst just won't be properly useful on the first boss, to groups going so slow that you end up choosing to hold your cooldowns at the end of the last AoE pull to open on the boss with them. But in this specific case, if I had led with my burst more quickly, I would have been able to open with them. But I didn't. And it's possible things would have played out differently if I had done so. If you ever needed some insight into how optimizing in the context of a dungeon can get really complicated, this is why. I feel like I somewhat managed to maintain the alignment of my songs leading into the second boss, only needing to wait a moment with sending the 2-minute burst. However, during the fight, there was a 20-second window where my dots were just not active. And then on the final boss, around halfway through the fight, the half-room cleave overlapped with spread markers, getting our healer killed. Fortunately, I have Phoenix Downs, and then they die immediately again. And shortly after, the tank also goes down, leading to a wipe. On the run back, I end up taking so much damage by accident that I almost die, distracting the healer, which then leads to them dying again. Fortunately, we still have more Phoenix Downs, although the fight finished up then anyway. For Duty 14, we're back to Under the Sea with Fern. A really random tip here is to pre-cast Raging Strikes to make sure Venomous Bite both gets to benefit from it and also be cast as early as possible. For Duty 15, we went to Titania with Gazel and Fupoof, and this group just nails it. No deaths, and we just rush straight through. A fun fact about the fight is that when Titania says, "Can you guess which one?" while literally showing you a donut or circle AoE. This mechanic makes a lot more sense in the extreme version, as there the tell is either spreading wings, circle, or a spinning staff, donut. But because it isn't nearly as clear in that version, her actually asking makes a lot more sense. In the add phase, one thing I could have done to optimize would have been to set my dots up on all 3. I didn't, simply because I ended up prioritizing the kill order, and also due to being uncertain if the dots would last long enough to matter. In retrospect, yes, they would have. For Duty 16, we are a 4-minute replacement in World of Darkness as Gunbreaker. Overall, everyone played really well, including the tanks, which meant I mostly played as honorary DPS, except for Cerberus, where I actually was the add tank, as you may have sometimes heard that A takes the adds. Wild, right? At some point during the Cloud of Darkness fight, I also took over simply by doing more damage. I'm not actually sure if 17-minute World of Darkness is quick, but since I was a 4-minute replacement, it was quick for me. For Duty 17, we went to Over the Hills, get ready for the 1-2 spam. And since Brutal Shell also heals, it gets even easier. For Duty 18, we went to Bird Down, and in a mildly humorous twist, one of our party members mentioned that you need to wait for the invuln to go down, a bit like how the NPC does. Not that it changes anything, as again, simply going ham often leads to the mobs going down somewhat together fast enough in the second round. For Duty 19, we went to Odin, and this run went reasonably well. I ended up tanking it. My main tips for this fight are, first, for everyone, spread out. Odin will every so often strike in an AoE around 3 random players, which applies an attack speed slow, and if you're bunched up close, then more players will be slowed as a result. Also remember you can use Ishuna on this. Ishuna yourself first. Second, specifically for the tanks, try to make sure you have at least one reasonable defensive for each Sungetile. Rampart the first one, then 30% of the second one, then maybe if you have a third bigger cooldown like Camouflage, use that third. You might even add Reprisal on top for that. I'd recommend using the invuln when all the other cooldowns are unavailable, simply because by using the shorter cooldowns first, you will probably get more uses of them, while using the invuln will definitely not give you more uses of those, since the fight itself is like 4 minutes anyway. A tank can typically take this Angatile straight without defensives, but it will hurt so bad that you will probably need immediate healer attention, so better use defensives. We of course cleared it nice and safe. For Duty 20, we went to Next to the Bench, and yes, even more Brutal Shell spam. And finally for Duty 21, we went to Rathalos Extreme with Ilana, and the Viper Emily also knew me. Hello! And everyone just nailed it, although we did have very few small mistakes where someone got hit. No deaths. Some quick tips for the fight are as follows. As the tank, make sure to pick up the Garula and face it away from Rathalos to not kill the rider. As the healer, aim to fully heal everyone and possibly set up shields if you have any before the phase 2 begins proper and makes all your healing tools useless anyway. During Phase 2, if someone is targeted by the stack marker, for the most part, they can solo them. Simply make sure you have full HP, and the healer should aim to Ishuna the dot each time so an unlucky dot tick timing won't kill you. Drink potion after each hit as well. If anyone has some defensive options they can help with, use those. The tank should use personal defensives on their turn rather than using party mitigation. It is incredibly unlikely to happen that one individual gets targeted by stacks so many times they actually run out of potions, but if that actually happens, they're probably dead anyway, even if the party helps. Anyway, we of course cleared this fight nice and quick. I've been noticing a trend that each week there's almost a greater and greater concentration of guild tests. What is really funny is that it feels like I can get just about 10 proper duties, and then whatever amount we have beyond 10 is all guild tests. Maybe we're on the cusp of a new record in guild test chains, which of course would be hilarious. And we are now past 53% of the way to the achievement. Did you know 53 is a prime number? Now, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to support me and my channel more directly, you can become a member like these wonderful people here. You can also alternatively support me through Ko-Fi, link in the description. You can also support the channel by letting the YouTube algorithm know by liking the video, leaving a comment, subscribing, sharing, and hitting the bell to get notified when next I post a video. Fun fact, while insanely unlikely, Rathalos Extreme can just drop the mount in the chest at the end of the fight. However, most of the time I believe players simply get the mount by beating the fight 50 times.